I hope you're all doing well. My name is Zion Kiana, and I'm your host here for this audio series called Blackness. Now, for those who may be joining us for the first time, or for those who might have forgotten what this show is all about, Blackness is an audio series brought to you by the Zexel Initiative, a newfound social initiative dedicated to breaking down stereotypes and generalizations made about marginalized communities. Blackness is just one of our projects we have going on right now, and it's a show that aims to dive into the broad spectrum of the Black identity. We really do this through the people we bring on our show, having them share their testimonies, experiences, and showcasing that Blackness can exist anywhere and look like anything. That being said, I have the pleasure of introducing today's guest, Miss Karess Melanie, someone who I can very much call a friend and a fellow graduate of the Walter Cronkite School at ASU, so go Devils. Now, for those who might be unfamiliar with Miss Melanie's background, Miss Melanie is a multimedia journalist, community leader, and a graduate of Arizona State's Walter Cronkite School of Journalism. During her time at ASU, she served in several leadership roles, including the former president of the National Association of Black Journalists at ASU, a former co-president of the Black African Coalition, and a former Supreme Court justice in the undergraduate student government on downtown. Now, as you can see, Miss Melanie was involved in a lot of things and continues to be so to this day. On our episode today, she reflects a lot on what it was like growing up in Brooklyn and navigating predominantly white spaces. She also then talks about her experience, being a Black journalist and what it's like, trying to succeed in an industry that often isn't surrounded by people like her. I think one of the more important takeaways from Miss Melanie's testimony is this idea of staying grounded in your identity while still creating change. That being said, I'm really excited for you guys to hear what she has to say, so let's get into it. Miss Karess, thank you so much for being here with me today. How are you?
I'm well, feeling good. It's a little chilly outside, but I like it. So
Yeah, it's a nice change of pace being here in Arizona too. So, but why don't you tell me about yourself, for those who may not be familiar with you, who are you, where do you go to school, what do you do, what are you involved in?
Sounds good. So my name is Karess Melanie. I'm originally from Brooklyn, New York, and I'm currently a senior majoring in journalism and mass communication at the Walter Cronkite School at Arizona State University. When it comes to my leadership positions, or actually I want to start with why I even decided to go into the leadership positions I'm in. But my goal in life, as cliche as it may sound, is to make the world a happier place. And that's something I even want to do through journalism. And I was telling you earlier, I just see everything as being an act of service. So even through my leadership positions with being the president of the Black African Coalition, the Supreme Court justice here at ASU, the board representative for Infernal Affinity Alliance, which is a new committee where we kind of work to bond students and student athletes to improve retention rates. And then also working as with the nonprofit Empowered Hands as a director of operations. So everything I do is kind of towards that goal to make the world a happier place. And and also improve our environment. That's something I'm also really passionate about too.
Absolutely, definitely involved in a lot. So why, if you don't mind me asking, obviously it took you a minute to get to where you are. Have you always had this vision of you wanted to do all these things, or is this something that kind of came as you kind of progressed through your journey?
Yeah, so I would say just starting back from middle school or high school, I've always been involved in student leadership somehow, and it was usually student government. So that was always my thing. So when I came here, and I remember when I was touring ASU with my parents, my first question was, do you guys have student government here? And when I became a freshman, that was the first leadership position I had. I was a senator for the Walter Cronkite School with USED, so undergraduate student government downtown. And honestly, since then, every year I just keep adding on more leadership positions. So it was USED, and then I added on NABJ, and then I switched my position in USED. I served as a senator, director of safety, health, and wellness, and now Supreme Court justice. And then just honestly, the positions I mentioned before. So I love doing leadership positions. It definitely is a lot. And sometimes I'm especially with it being my senior year, I'm Karess, you need to slow down. You don't want to burn out. I have burnt out before. It was a learning experience, but how I see it is that each leadership position prepares me for something else, whether that being an internship or things of that sort. I feel it definitely helped improve who I am as a person. middle school, high school, I used to be very quiet. I was getting still kind of quiet now, maybe not as much as before, but I was super quiet. But being involved in these student leadership positions or even having this major, you can't be quiet. You know, you have to network, you have to do the interviews, which is why my family was honestly shocked that I went this route with my career because I'm not usually much of a talker, but I feel like now I am, quote unquote, a yapper or whatever. But yeah.
Very well said. Now, what was it like trying to get out of that box? I know you said you still feel like you're somewhat quiet now, but what was that growth like for you?
It was definitely hard and it still is because sometimes I feel like my social battery does decrease a lot because I'm not maybe naturally outgoing. I feel like when I'm comfortable around people, I can talk a lot. Or when I know I need to, like, let's say I'm handling business, like I know I need to talk a lot. But I would say for transparency when it comes to getting out of the box, when it comes to networking, that is something I still need to work on because for me, when I'm first introducing myself to someone doing my elevator pitch, it goes well. But then after that, it's kind of like, okay, I don't really feel like talking anymore. It's just like, okay, where do we go from here? I'm kind of not over it, but networking, I feel like is its own world. It's something that we all have to figure out in our own way, how we best network, I guess. But yeah, just getting out that box is just really realizing that I need to in order to be successful and things like that. So, and I would say definitely each leadership position helped with that. Even being a senator when I was a freshman and having to participate in the senator meetings and Senate meetings and things of that sort. But also, I would say being quiet isn't bad. I feel like it's definitely important to be reserved and hear what's going on, and listen rather than always trying to shoot out words and things of that sort.
Absolutely, yeah. I feel like nowadays a lot of people are so quick to look to respond. So I definitely think being quiet is definitely a skill that is goes underappreciated.
Mhm.
So that's really nice. Now, and out of all your various leadership positions, would you say you've had any that have been your particular favorite or any, experience that you really enjoyed?
Yeah, I would say I hold NABJ really close to my heart. Sophomore year is when I brought it back to ASU. And what kind of stemmed me to bring it back is because of an experience that I at ASU. It was definitely, I guess, a culture shock when I came here. Like I said before, I'm from Brooklyn, New York, which is a really diverse place. It was kind of reversed where in New York, it was predominantly Black students and very few white students. And here it's the complete opposite. So even with like the teachers, the staff, things of that sort. And I had an experience with a professor who's no longer here at ASU where it did feel like I was encountering racism. And I did, I'm always really good at, going to faculty to figure things out. So I went right to Dean Melanie Alvarez, who kind of helped me with that situation and also suggested NABJ because that was one of my big things is that the Black students here the journalism students don't really have a place to go. So I would definitely say NABJ because it's like something very personal to me and just honestly being able to build it back up into an organization and then also being able to push it off into other leadership now with the executive board is something I'm really proud of. And I'm honestly truly proud of the progress we all made with the NABJ.
Absolutely. Can you kind of talk about, what was it like navigating that situation?
Yeah, I would say when I was first experiencing it, and I'm sure a lot of us have this question is, okay, am I overthinking? Is this person actually being racist towards me? Luckily, I have a very headstrong mother. And when I talked to her about it, she kind of recentered me and made me realize that one, not to internalize it, but two, to actually think like, don't just assume that you're being sensitive about the situation. Like, if you feel like the person actually is acting that way, then I guess go to faculty, like, go report it, things of that sort. And for me, I know, I don't know if you're into zodiacs, but I am a Cancer. So, like, I am a sensitive person. But so I know I even thought like, okay, Karess, it happened one time. Let's see if it happens again. And basically, for transparency, one of the incidents that was happening, I was the only Black student in the class. Um, I don't think I was the only. It was very few women in that class. I was a sports journalism major at the time, so there was that. But I know the professor, like, he would never call on me. It was like, that's kind of how it started. Like, I always want to, I'm really good at participating. So I always like want to raise my hand and things like that. So there will be times I'll be the only student raising my hand and he still wouldn't call on me. So that kind of like concerned me. And then when I did report it, it turns out this wasn't the first incident. And like I said earlier, like, he's no longer here at ASU. But I feel like for any student out there, like Black student, when you feel like you are experiencing racism, one, of course, don't internalize it and let their energy put you down. But also realize like the resources that you do have and use that, like use your power and use your words and don't just hold it because like like I said, he's no longer here. So
I think that's really well said. And now, now that we've kind of, talked about what that was like experienced in more of the academic setting, what would you say socially you felt in terms of like race relations or like things you've experienced?
yeah, I would say freshman, sophomore year, it was really interesting. It was hard for me to adapt, honestly, because like I said before, I'm not used to being in these type of environments. And now we do have more of a Black population here at ASU, which is amazing. But when I was a freshman, it was very few of us, especially within the Walter Cronkite School. So I would say it was a little hard for me to adapt just because I'm not used to it. And I feel like not only am I not used to that, but just I'm from the East Coast and the West Coast is completely different. So even realizing here, like, I know I make a joke, actually, no, but like, yeah. No, but yeah, I just feel like people here are definitely different, but as I gotten older, I feel like I know I used to exclude myself from people who didn't look like me, which I don't think is technically a bad thing. Like, of course, you naturally like go towards your community, but I also realize it's important to get to know other people and other races, other ethnicities, even religious backgrounds and things of that sort, especially when you're going into the work environment. And I feel like I know you act like socially amongst like peers, but even going into the internships, I interned at ABC in New York and I expected it to be like very diverse, but it was still very white male centered. So that's even when I had to learn like, I'm gonna have to figure out how to not I like to use the phrase adapt and attack, meaning like, okay, I'm adapting to this environment, but I'm gonna attack like the issue at hand if there is one, no matter like the level that it is, and not just again going back to like internalizing it and accepting it. So I would say that's like something I definitely had to learn because unfortunately there isn't always a lot of us in these spaces. And honestly, I was truly shocked. Like, I'm like, New York, this is such a culture place, I'm used to being around our people. So why am I in this work environment? And it's not like that, but it's definitely different. The culture in every way is completely different. So I had to adapt and adapt to that.
Absolutely. I think that's a very interesting concept. And, we could possibly talk about this a little bit, but I feel like a lot of times when we look at, integrating, especially as Black people ourselves, into like predominantly white spaces or spaces where we're not often seen, I think the topic of assimilation always comes in, whether that's a good or bad thing, I feel like that's really everyone's has their own personal take on that. But, now I guess I'm just curious, what do you feel about the concept of assimilating, whether that's, like here at ASU, just in the broader sense?
Just going back to my freshman and sophomore year, honestly, I feel like I was adapting too much to the point where I started to not lose, yeah, like quote unquote lose myself because like I said again, it's completely different in every way. Um, from like what we eat, from how we talk, the fashion, like how you carry yourself, things of that sort. And especially since I spent a lot of my time here because I don't go back home. I only go back home for like winter and summer break. I feel like I started to like adapt to the norms here, but at the same time, that's not who I am. But then when junior year, senior year came around, and also I became more around, like I would say, like our community, I kind of regained and recentered myself, if that's like answering your question in a way. Because I would say for sure, I quote unquote did lose myself because at the time my friends were predominantly white and things of that sort. So, you think like, I don't know. It was strange because I feel like this may be something that some students may experience in elementary or middle school because they're from, I don't know, the South or like the West Coast where they are used to growing up in these environments. But me, I'm not. So it was definitely a difference. But then again, I also had still my confidence, like from being from New York, being from Brooklyn, I still held that, had my grounding in a way. But even when I did Cronkite News, I was the only Black woman in Cronkite News, and just seeing how I would say the other students, I feel like there's just different. Like, I feel like a white woman anchor differs from a Black woman anchor, and not seeing that representation in a way like had me a little confused, and it was like an overwhelming experience because I'm like, okay, is this the way an anchor is supposed to look? Is this? But then I realized like no, like especially with doing my intern, like no, there's Lindsay Davis, there's Rachel Scott, like that representation is truly very important. But I was able to remember like where I'm from and things of that sort, and kind of not fall into the okey doke.
No, absolutely. Yeah, no, I feel like, yeah, you basically answered the question. I just wanted to work backwards because I think that was good, but I feel like you said it perfectly. The concept of adapting and attacking is really good because that's, I feel, you're able to adapt to the environment, so you're still able to thrive, but you're also like attacking the systems of like whether that's racism, like complicit bias, whatever. Very well said. Now, my next question for you was, regarding, your newest position, well, at least to my knowledge, the BAC presidency. So I just wanted to, ask how that's been for you.
Yeah, I would say I love being the co-president of the Black African Coalition. It's truly amazing. I would say like I definitely like to give myself props to know like I started on an org-based level and now I'm on a coalition-based level. And it's really amazing to support all of the Black organizations here at ASU and being able to see like on a different light how much goes into being a part of a coalition, because we do have to support, all of our member orgs, but we also are like the face of the Black community here at ASU. But I wouldn't, as much that goes into BAC, I don't find it overwhelming. I would say I believe everything happens for a reason. So I definitely feel like all of my prior positions prepared me from this, from NABJ to my student government positions, just knowing, how to do an RFF, the logistical things on who do we need to reach out to if a student has an issue, things of that sort. So being able to support our community in that way is truly amazing to me, and I genuinely love it so much. So I wish I could do it longer in a way because I really love having this position, and I'm really looking forward to spring semester and everything we're going to put in place, even with our events, how diverse our events are, like we don't want to just focus on leisure related, but career related, mental health related too. And I know one of our big goals this year, and I priorly like mentioned to you, is how can we like target Black men at our school into leadership, because I feel like we've seen a decrease in that. I don't know, that's something we really um want to help foster in a way, is to see how we can get more Black males here at ASU in leadership positions. Because even on our executive board, I believe we only have 3 and the rest is women, which is amazing. But it is also important to have Black men in those rooms as well.
For those who aren't familiar with what the Black African Coalition of the BAC is, could you explain that as well as, maybe explain some of the significance in having like a coalition?
Yeah. So the Black African Coalition so there's many coalitions here at ASU. So there's Asian American Pacific. There's one for Rainbow Coalition, which is for LGBTQ. There's also one for those who have disabilities, things of that sort. Hispanic identifying people as well. And basically each coalition oversees all the member orgs that fall underneath that category. So for example, for the Black African Coalition, that'll be NABJ, NESB, BMSA, CSA, so on and so forth. And we're just here to support the Black community. So that'll be African American, African, Caribbean students, and not just supporting those orgs, but again, those specific students. So if students ever need anything, they can come to us. Like we have office hours. Our door is always open. If you just need a snack, you just need a water, you can come to our office on the Tempe campus. That's truly what we are here for. But also, we're kind of like a pipeline connecting Arizona, like the outside world, to ASU Black community. So a lot of times, like we'll have connections with the African American governor's office, the commission's office, and things of that sort. But yeah.
Do you have like any favorite projects that you guys have done through the BAC so far?
Yeah, I would say so far is an event that I spearheaded, which is our Day at the Capitol, in which I got from the time I served with undergraduate student government. And I noticed that while we do have a Day at the Capitol, while it was in USGD, it wasn't a lot of Black students who were attending that. And I feel it's very important to open that door for our Black students. So that's why I wanted to make sure we had that. And we collab with African American governor's office here at ASU. And we were able to have a senator and a House representative, two Black women, talk to students. We toured the Capitol Museum, things of that sort, understood that Senate meetings in Arizona are open to the public. Committee meetings, so like the Appropriations Committee or like the Health Committee, are also open to the public. Like you have access to that because it is very important for us to know, what's on our ballot, who are our representatives, and things of that sort. So I wanted to provide students with that opportunity. But we also had a part two to that event, which was hosted in the Cronkite building, which was showing civic engagement through the performing arts, which is something very common within the Black community and truly amazing that our Black community does. So we had students perform poetry, their songs. We had visual artists there. It was truly an amazing experience because it's important to show civic engagement, on that logistical, political side, but also through the performing arts. Everybody they do politics in a different way. And I remember someone that day, one of the representatives for the African American governor's office, said that some people don't want to do politics, but politics will always do you. And I feel like that's something that really stuck with me. Yeah. So that was definitely one of my favorite initiatives. And I would say, kind of going into the future, an initiative that I want to do, I'm really big on, eating healthy. I don't like additives, none of that stuff. Like I'm always telling my friends, like, no, we're not going to McDonald's, put that down, like don't do it. Especially with here in Arizona, with there being a food desert, Um, but I hosted this event before through my USGD position, but I want to do it with BC. And I was able to host a farmer's market on Taylor Mall where we were able to provide fresh bread, produce, food for free, but also incorporating a refillery station, which is really good for the sustainability aspect. And a refillery station is basically where you bring, let's say, any bottle you may want and you fill it up with soaps, um, dish soap, body soap, laundry detergent, anything of that sort. And the idea is also, while it was free for students, they do have stores where the idea is pay what you want. So, when you're going to stores, you have to pay, let's say they only have a 12-ounce bottle of, I don't know, Dove soap, I don't know. Not only are you paying for like that liquid, you're also paying for the container. But when it's the pay what you want concept, let's say you only want 5 ounces of Dove soap. So you bring that bottle, you only fill up 5 ounces in it. Let's say if it's $1 per ounce, you're only paying $5, but you're also, reusing and recycling and things of that sort. And then also the products are better, they're healthier, for your body and things of that sort. Because I know a lot of times we find out for some reason our soap um is like, don't quote me on this, but like are providing people like with cancer, like even the food and things of that sort, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So now I feel like you already talked about it a little bit, but for those, who look like us, who, may struggle with wanting to get involved in leadership and maybe in fear of, like, hey, there's nobody that looks like me at the table, what words of encouragement or advice could you provide to them?
Yeah, one thing I want to say starting this off is that words have power. So I want everybody to be wary, and I tell kind of like everyone this, like, but be aware of the words that you're putting out there, like even in your mind. A lot of times people are like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. Like, no, like change that into I can do it. And that's something I learned when I used to run track and field is like I was a long distance runner. So when I'm doing the mile and I'm tired, instead of in my head, I notice literally like when I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't feel like running anymore, my body will like more or less slow down or like I just felt less, you know, encouraged to cross that finish line. But mentally, when I'm telling myself I can do it, that's when I'm able to push through and, open my stride. And I feel like that goes for anything. Like make sure that you're being very cautious of the words that you're saying because you can put things into place, the good or the bad, with the words that you express. And that's even when you are going into these rooms. instead of saying like, oh, I don't belong here, things like that. Like, remember, like, who you are, at the end of the day and what you are bringing to the table. And I feel like a mindset that I like to have is that they need me, I don't need them. You know what I mean? That's kind of what keeps me pushing and remembering like all the credentials that you do have and things of that sort, but also knowing that those credentials don't just validate you. Like, you are your own person outside of that. Another thing too is something I had to learn is not to internalize things, and that's within a social and a professional environment. So oftentimes you are in that room and let's say you walk through that door and no one is greeting you, don't internalize it. Like, still keep your head up and, push through and know who you are at the end of the day,
You talked about it a little bit, but like, do you have anything else you'd like to add about, not being limited to, how you're perceived as a Black person in this country at all?
I would say, like, I guess just like walk in your Blackness. Like, I feel like that's like something very powerful. Don't try to limit your Blackness when you are going into these rooms either. And I feel like at times that can be really hard, especially just from a woman perspective, not wanting, I know it's something I experienced, like not wanting to be seen as an angry Black woman just for standing up for myself and things of that sort. But honestly, own that. Like, own that you know how to stand up for yourself and things of that sort. But yeah, I would just say don't see like the stereotypical Black person as being a bad thing. Like, even kind of going into a trend that's happening right now, like with the whole quarter zip and the Nike Tech, like it's like, oh, because I'm wearing a quarter zip, I'm better than, someone wearing a Nike Tech. No, because I feel like those type of things are put in place to like put us down or like separate us. Like, someone wearing a Nike Tech can be like the most intellectual person ever. Like, that doesn't define you. And for sure, you don't want materialistic things to define who you are as a person and things of that sort. But yeah.
Very well said. And now my last question for you, Ms. Karess. It's a question we ask all of our guests. It's a little bit more open-ended, a little bit more, I don't know the exact term, but definitely open-ended. But what does Blackness mean to you? And like I said, you can take some time to think about it. There isn't really a specific answer, but what does it mean to you at the end of the day?
Hmm. What does Blackness mean to me? For one, I would say Blackness definitely, like, being Black means everything to me because it's who I am, especially being Black American. Like, that's something that I hold with so much pride for sure. Like, even when you ask me that question, like, I feel like a smile went on my face because, like, I'm so proud to be Black, And I feel like for some people that definitely takes a time to learn because there's so many things put in place to make, especially Black Americans, to make us not proud to be Black American, But yeah, I would definitely say Blackness. I'm trying to find like a word.
And I was gonna say, if rephrasing the question helps, another way I tend to ask is like, what is Blackness? Like, just not even what it means to you, just what do you feel it is? Like, if you had to put it into something.
That's what I'm struggling with now because like there's so many words that are going into my head. Like, I feel like Blackness is definitely an honor. Being Black is a learning experience. Being Black is something you hold with pride. Being Black can be scary at times too, if you just want to be real. But yeah. But kind of going into when I kind of want to talk more like being Black as a learning experience because I feel like I know for me personally, every year, even each month, I learn more about what goes into being Black, especially being Black American with like our culture being stripped from us and kind of like relearning that in a way, the culture that we have as being Black American, but also knowing like to keep my head high with being a Black woman at the end of the day. But I know it's not like a very firm answer to your question. I'm still trying to think on it.
I think that was, that was a good answer.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't feel pressure to add more if you don't want to, but I think that's good. But if you feel like you have something more to add, you're more than.
It's just so much. Like, I just feel like being Black is amazing. And like the same way I hold on my chest, like I'm from Brooklyn, is the same way like I'm Black. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I'm grateful. I'll say that. I'm really grateful to be a Black woman. But yeah.